The act of writing is not just typing words onto the screen. The act of writing involves living your life, being in your community, enjoying your relationships with your friends and family, being out in nature and being inspired by everything in your world. I am Waubgeshig Rice. I'm in my backyard in Sudbury, Ontario. Sudbury is also known as Swakamuck and it's the traditional territory of Reconnecting Anishinaabe, and it's a part of the Robinson-Huron Treaty, signed in 1850. My most recent novel is called Moon of the Crested Snow, and it is a post-apocalyptic story about a Northern Ontario First Nation that endures a world-ending blackout and then receives unexpected visitors from a city to the south and has to make some pretty dire decisions about its future. Right now I'm working on the sequel to Moon of the Crested Snow, tentatively titled Moon of the Turning Leaves, and as an author working from home, I'm sort of picking a spot wherever I can to do my writing because my wife has recently returned to work and she works for public health here in Sudbury. So, you know, we're dancing around this pandemic work at home routine. But it's working well. I mean, her work is obviously much more important than mine. She's managing the public health response to this pandemic, right? And I'm writing a novel, you know? I do my best to just quietly type away. We wanted to raise our children closer to their home communities, on their traditional homelands, so that they would have access to the stories and to the culture that we grew up with. I always feel very fortunate to have grown up in a time 40 years ago when my home community was making those reconnections with culture, language, and history, because I learned the stories of our people, and that is how I understood my own Anishinaabe identity. You know, I heard the old trickster stories, the Nanabush stories, I heard various creation stories. There's a real tangible benefit to being in a circle with somebody, to hearing that story face to face, or to being around the drum as it's sounding. Those are all part of the entire storytelling process, in my opinion. Even if you're not hearing a story or telling a story, you're still experiencing humanity and you're experiencing these time-honored customs together, right? And that influences you whether you realize it or not. And I think in Northern Ontario, where we are now, there is still a strong sense of that. Having a platform to reach audiences and readers around the world is pretty mind-blowing. It's also very humbling. I do not take it for granted at all. I see it as a great responsibility to represent myself, my family, and my community properly and proudly. And you know, I could never have foreseen that there would be audiences in foreign countries reading about the Anishinaabe experiences I had growing up on the Reds. It really is a chance to reflect our truths more proudly and more widely.